before this gets out of our heads, talk about the shooting of that, and where are we in the course of the movie and the arc of sort of how things are supposed to look, and how does it influence how you shoot this moment with these three characters?
So the shooting of the clip we just saw?
Yeah.
God,
It feels it's almost midpoint, isn't it? I mean, you're already you're almost at the midpoint of the movie at this point.
I don't know. I mean, I think
your lenses were longer.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of the mid-range.
50 and 100.
I mean, yeah. Most of the choices that all the choices that Jason and I make all come from out of like what's the right tone for the scene. What's this moment? And we kind of work backwards from that to choose, where the camera's going to go, where the lenses are going to be. Jason usually comes to me with an idea of the lenses he wants to shoot. He kind of finds the angles because he's edited a lot of these things in his head, or has an idea of the way he thinks they're going to be played out because of tonal reasons, pacing. So he kind of starts, finding shots with the lens based on those things, and then we kind of start talking about it and trying to make it happen and seeing if we agree on it and trying to keep each other honest about what we're trying to accomplish. And it's hard for me to remember what specifically we did for that because it was such. I remember going into that scene. It was this kind of a monster of a scene. It was very intimidating.
It was one day of shooting.
It was. Did we? Yeah, actually, it was one full day. Half day.
Half day. Yeah. We also shot the elevator bank that day.
Wow, that was a very ambitious day.
It is and it isn't. You know what? It's ambitious when the actors aren't right.
Yeah.
I've had scenes where you have lots of dialogue and you're like, oh my God, you got one actor who's going to nail it and one is just going to be a mess and all over the place. And that's when it's scary because you also don't want to lose the one actor who's good and has already nailed it. They're going to lose their attention as the. But this was a scene where all three actors are smoking. Like they just know these characters down. And the intimidating thing, and maybe you felt this coming from me, is I loved this scene.
That's true. I know this was your baby.
This is my favorite scene I've ever written.
And didn't want to screw it up.
And this is my favorite scene I've ever done in general. So, yeah, and you know on set when the director's like,
don't fuck this one up.
And
it's hard too because it is so long, and you want to make it interesting, but you want to keep the tone right. You're like, are we really just gonna keep the camera not moving and just over the shoulder and singles for that long? And maybe we should do something. And he's like, no, it's not what this is. And but I remember once, so we spent a lot of time.
But that's actually a really important lesson, and that's one thing that we do for each other all the time, which is we keep each other from doing cool shots.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to, it's a 5-minute scene and you're like, oh, well, maybe we should just set some track behind them and just keep the camera moving back and forth.
Floating,
and we'll have it floating around and stuff. And that's set talk, but it actually doesn't make sense in the movie. You have to recognize the value of the scene and where it is. And in this scene, you want to feel like you're sitting at that table in this conversation as a participant, not like you're some floaty camera moving around in like a Tony Scott film. And and that's one thing that you and I do for each other all the time is...
I think it's one of our strengths.
Yeah, if I'm setting up a cool shot, you'll come up in my ear and go, that's a cool shot, mister.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Cool Shot.
Hey, somebody's getting fancy with the Kid
and
Dolly
I'll
track.
do the same to you. I'll be like, ooh, you pulled out. Ooh, did Panavision send you a cool toy? Look at this.
Yeah.
That's fancy.
I'll be like, oh, look who's been watching a Michael Bay movie. Yeah.
You working on the reel?
Yeah.
You're working on the reel, right?
You
need to beef you need one.
I need a reel opener.
Is one of your favorite DPs here? Are you trying to impress somebody? I can't tell why.
But it's very true. That's usually we're always talking about that type of thing. And actually, when I was interviewing gaffers for Juno, I remember they said, "What's the look of the movie?" And I said, "Well, if there's any one shot that stands out that's good enough to be on my reel, I'm going to be really upset because it's like that's not our currency. It's what's right for the movie and what's right for the scene, and we're really good at bouncing things off each other. So back to this scene, for me, it was intimidating. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to do it. But I do remember once we set it up, we just went. We just rolled. Actors nailed it within a couple takes, and we just kept moving around and got it done.